Welcome to the Quarter Life Lessons podcast,
a show on the relatable lessons learned on the journey to and through adulthood. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm CharLea. Let's get started. While preparing for this episode, I really just feel a lot of gratitude towards 2024 because there were just so many things that I gained and just many successes. And, again, appreciating the successes is bittersweet because it does come with the difficulties and the negatives. And even through those, it was more of a lesson opposed to, a burden. And just some examples of those, again, like losing my aunt and, experiencing very deep grief. But, out of that, I definitely have a greater value for time and time with people that is not a forever thing, and valuing my own time, like what am I putting my time and energy into, because again we only have so many minutes on earth, and I want to do more things that are beneficial to me and beneficial to my health, and as well just building healthy relationships and making those lasting memories. I think is, really a positive. It's unfortunate that, I didn't necessarily have that perspective until losing someone so close, but I'm thankful to have gotten that lesson out of it, out of such a difficult time. That as well, I definitely tended to my inner child a lot in 2024. Yes, even by just doing little things that may be silly for adults to do, but my inner child was celebrated so much. For example, like my 25th birthday cake was a SpongeBob themed cake. And, that certainly is present in my inner child's needs, and dancing again and performing again. Getting into line dancing, and now I'm a Zumba instructor, which I don't even know if you know that, Stephanie, but
I didn't. That's awesome.
like Zumba has so many ties for me because not only is it dancing and it's like an active performance, and I like that, I appreciate those things, but it also is specifically in Latin-based roots. And for some of you who don't know, I think I mentioned this in the mid-year episode, but I met my father's side of the family this year over the summer for the very, very first time. And that was also healing to my inner child, because knowing who you are is it's difficult a lot of times when you don't know where it is that you come from, or you don't have that cultural connection to, or familial connection to the people who are a part of the culture that and learning those traditions. And it's just been very eye-opening, and I very much so appreciate the calls of, this is what we do on Christmas on my dad's side of the family, or this is how we celebrate, or this is how you cook rice and peas, and things of the sort that, yeah, I could look up, but getting those bonding moments like with my family and being so appreciated and accepted by them was extremely healing to my inner child. Doing other things that my inner child definitely wanted, just maybe didn't have a direction, but becoming a better student. Again, like being advanced or being smart was a part of my identity as a kid, but I didn't always feel that way. And a lot of it was because I didn't study. I barely read because I hated reading. So having that manifest into like undeniable efforts, like my grades are very apparent on that. I am, being a good student, and I am putting energy into doing well. So the payoff for that has been great. And I think the biggest lesson that 2024, or the lesson that sticks with me the most, is just being able to soften and just not take things so seriously.
So, what exactly does being more soft mean in your life?
Um, It's a good question. It's really just, like I said, not taking things so seriously, and I mean that in like not being so rigid
Mm,
with expectations, especially of others, and knowing that I really can only control my own expectations and my own efforts, and as well just being open to different outcomes. There's not a lot of right answers when we think about it. And I used to put, a lot of effort into doing things quote unquote right, and that's a part of the perfectionism. But I do think that even, through dating and learning how to have healthier friendships, and setting boundaries in my friendships where, I wasn't really getting anything out of those, and learning that, sometimes that means that those aren't really your friends. Certainly, taking a step back from that rigid control mindset is what I mean by being more soft. And I can grow more in that area because there's more space.
mm.
There's more. There's just more possibilities in that mindset.
That's amazing. It's funny to hear you talk about some of the same things that I feel like I've been working on. And, like I said, the beauty of this podcast is that this is about quarter life lessons. And I think whether you embrace them at quarter life, 25, like CharLea is, or you're 39 and you embrace them later past the quarter life, um, the coming to terms with some of the things that you've always thought about yourself, your belief system, and what it's based on, that is a coming of age experience. And whether that happens at 25 or 39 or 55 or whatever, it is a gift, right? And it's through probably some really challenging truths and some soul searching that you have that experience. And I had no idea I needed to learn some of those very same lessons around expectations, perfectionism, people pleasing, coping. You talked about your inner child. And I always held reverence for the concept of inner child work. And I thought it was meant for other people. I thought I had a pretty good childhood. There were bumps in the road, but that my inner child was, my childhood was fine, was good. I appreciated all the elements of it. But I did have to do some of that work this year to figure out, related to coping, related to things that I kept doing behaviorally that I didn't even know I was doing. And the roots of that came from trying to build safety based on things that happened in your childhood. And I used to think that you had to have some sort of significant change or, dramatic, traumatic thing in your upbringing that you needed to do this work. And what I want to tell the thrivers is I don't think that's true anymore. I think that everyone has to heal from growing up. And whatever things happened in your childhood or in your adolescence, they have had an impact on the way you show up in the world today. So whether or not was a traumatic experience or something you need to heal through, I think asking yourself the questions about why you do what you do or how you show up is such a gift. And I hope that it creates beautiful reflection if you had a wonderful upbringing. And I hope that it creates space to take care of yourself if you did not. And that's what I'm learning is how do I show up for myself? How do I look at some of these coping mechanisms differently? And that touches on what you said, Charlie. And that is, um, I think I was trying to control a lot of other people for a really long time, and I didn't know. And at first, I was sad about that. And I had to walk through that a little bit this year. But I think the thing that I'm taking forward from that, and I think you are too, when you talked about having more space to grow, and that is taking care of myself, showing up for myself, and letting people be who they are and loving them where I can. And when it's not good for me, being okay to make a change. And like you said, being softer, so opposite of rigid, so that you can experience what's meant for you and all the possibilities of things you didn't even plan yet, right? Because mindset before, and I think you'll appreciate this too. I was planning everything. I was planning every accomplishment, where I was going next, why I was going there next, all of the logistics on the way there. I could see 5 years out, maybe 10 years out. Certainly, I was open to fun, exciting things that happened along the way. But I think I was putting myself into a box I didn't even know I was building. And now, a softer version of myself, more self love, self compassion, is okay with not knowing what the next 5 years looks like, because I'm going to be okay no matter what. And I think that's what you're talking about too. The softer version of ourselves don't have to have it all figured out to stay safe. And the beauty of that is that things beyond our wildest dreams could come true.
That's exactly what I mean. And I appreciate feeling heard and being understood in that way. Of course, there is room for maybe not rigid but structure. There's room for that consistency. It's just where you're placing it, and again, the overall outcome that you're wanting to get from it. Just being realistic about some outcomes that we don't have control over, and we are honestly like unknown. So for instance, when you're talking about controlling not only what you're doing, but in doing so trying to control what others do, is not realistic. And it's so much of a relief to
Right.
understand that, because it really is, like, honestly too much to have to worry about me and everybody else. It's too much. Like, it's draining. And I can experience more of the life that I want when I'm focused on me. And
Yeah,
yeah.
it's funny. I feel like I want to show my tattoos to the YouTube viewers because I got this tattoo this year.
Cool.
And I don't know if you can read it. Can you read it, Charlia?
Not really. Read it to us.
Okay, it's "My journey is my offering." And I found it in a poem this year. And it, like I said, has been a transformational year. And what I think it means is that my pursuit to my authentic self, like you just talked about, controlling yourself, understanding yourself, loving yourself, my journey in pursuit of that is the way I have impact in the world, because it allows me to love everyone as their authentic self, and to be an example and a role model and a supporter for people on their own journey. And I feel like when we were doing when you and I were both in the mindset of controlling things, you're not loving people from an authentic place. Certainly you're doing it to keep yourself safe or to reach your accomplishments, but it's not an authentic sense of love and support. The only way I believe now that you can truly love people is to the depths that you love yourself. And your journey in finding that and doing that is your biggest offering in this lifetime. And so that's why I got my tattoo. But I think it's super fitting with what we're talking about, and the permission to let go of trying to control other people's journey, whether the impetus for that is self-safety, then that's something you need to work on. Or if it's you thinking you're helping them to their best potential, or you're building this great life together, I think that that's masking the fact that maybe you're not showing up for yourself, or maybe there's something going on in your past. But truly seeking yourself, prioritizing self-love on your journey here, I believe, is the best way we can love the people closest to us, um, on their journey.
Yeah. And what I hear from what you've said, stuff, is the acceptance of not doing the controlling is one thing, but it also comes with, you know, learning what your role, or learning what it is that, you know, learning how or why you matter outside of doing those things to control others. And I'm not saying that to say that people don't matter. I know for myself, the role I played in other people's lives was often where I was getting my value from. It was very so, and you're saying, if it's based off of safety and based off of wanting to keep things, specific things in relationships close to you that serve you or contribute to the mindset of your service and what you do for other people being your value. I think that that also could take, some time to consider, and it is worth working through because you're valuable no matter what. Like there are things that of course you can do that are of value to other people, but that is not the baseline of your value.
Right. And I think whether you're 25 or 39 or 100 years old, not placing your self love and self value and your general worthiness on anything other than you're a human being and you are important to yourself.
Yeah.
And it sounds selfish, right? Like the last couple of months, I've been struggling with, what do you mean? Like, I've spent 39 years creating a life where I love people through acts of service, right? So, what does it mean to practice self love and to be so um, focused on myself and my journey and getting to know my authentic self? Isn't that selfish? And there's this dichotomy, I think, that the world creates, or maybe it's just the whole part of unbecoming as an adult, which is literally what we talk about all the time, that two things can be true. Certainly, over focus on yourself is selfishness, and you don't want to be a narcissist. You don't want to be in a silo and prioritizing, just yourself all the time. But I truly, truly believe that without the work of understanding yourself and loving yourself, that the ways you show up for other people get very mixed up in needing them to value you, needing them to need you, needing them to love you and never leave you. And you talked about keeping things close and being attached to them. It is very, very close to what it feels like to be authentic and in line and accomplished, and you can really appreciate yourself. But when you start to ask the questions, why did I do that? What do I feel about myself? How do I talk to myself? Those are internal self love things. And when you start to peel away the layers there, then you start to understand that, well, maybe I accomplished this to earn love. And maybe I do this for that person so that they will need me. And that's how I feel valuable. And I've been doing a lot of that work this year. And for any of the listeners and thrivers who are starting that journey, I would imagine that this is going to be multiple years worth of discovering and unbecoming. And the other thing I want to say on this is a big lesson I learned in 2024, and that is, I'm a super cognitive person who understands emotional thoughts. I don't always make space to feel feelings, and I'm working on that. Second thing, you can't just cognitively like who you are. When I started this in therapy this year, I thought, oh, okay, I get it. Ninja, who is what I call my therapist. I get it, Ninja. Like, you just have to like yourself, and it's a decision, and I'm going to go ahead and decide that I love myself. And then a couple of weeks later, I figured out that there is a very big difference between feeling something and practicing something like self love and giving yourself self compassion and grace and asking yourself questions about getting to know yourself internally and a lot of that inner child work that you talked about, CharLea. That is a practice over a period of time that grows your authenticity. You cannot just decide to like yourself. Or maybe you can, but eventually I think you'll come to terms with the fact that that's not that it's transactional, right?
Yeah.
I spent 39 years being the best version of myself. Certainly I had a great time. I have had a great life, right? I've accomplished things. I've had the career I wanted. I've never felt trapped or overly scared, but I was really, really building this community and this life around myself to stay safe um, and to please and to achieve and to be smart and valuable, right? But then when I started to ask myself what I thought of myself, or ask about some of the things that came up from my childhood, looking back at my childhood, I realized, and I was a little heartbroken about the fact that I think I built a life all around trying to earn people's love and value. And now you talked about being softer. When you're softer, I think you're internal more and you're saying, okay, I can't control those people or that thing out there. Let me kind of hold myself, show up for myself. Let me find out what I feel or what I think. So, um, I don't know, just feels like more like a hug, I guess, when you said you're softer. You know yourself more, you know why you're doing the things you're doing them, and hopefully that they're in alignment with your values. I know that was a tangent, but
Absolutely much needed. I'm glad you were able to go down that thought, and I'm really happy that you are able to do so much self care and experience, the year that you've had. And, I'm interested to hear what you're looking to gain from 2025.
yeah, I think in 2025 I definitely want to show up for myself more. And you talked about consistency. I want to do that and show up for myself related to my health goals. Um, I've also, because I'm such a cognitive person, and I know you say the same things, like you're such a planner and oh, I think you said overthinker or something like that. Um,
Chronic critical thinker.
Chronic critical thinker. Yes, I think that is true. I want to learn to let go more and to choose my focus. I don't think I can stop being cognitive. I've developed a sharp skill for critical thinking, like you shared as well. And I just want to be able to choose the focus more and to let the right things go and maximize my energy in the ways that I can for my own self love and my own um, I guess, authentic achievement or authentic experience. So be able to choose my focus for gratitude, choose my focus of accepting things that I can't control, focus on loving myself every day and romanticizing the little parts about my day, whether it's actually going to the gym and showing up for myself and being happy that I did, or that I use my favorite pen at work, or, all the blessings and glimmers that we sometimes miss when we're over focused on controlling something or trying to avoid something. Definitely want to know more about myself and break the molds of what's expected. Uh, I mentioned that I read something recently that said every aspect of life is creativity and art. And when I was a little kid, I wanted to be an artist. And I remember as a little kid trying to decide if I was going to be a career woman who did art on the side or if I was going to be an artist who had a side job, right? I remember actively trying to pragmatize, like, which one of these am I going to build, right?
That
And
plan
so it's
started early for you.
right, yeah, that planning kicked in at about 8 years old. Um, so anyway, the concept of everything in life being something of an artist, right? Whether it's the way I do my hair, what I wear, or the kind of car I drive, or the way I set up my living room or bedroom. I want to take the opportunity to create more in so many different ways. And then every day, just become a little bit wiser and blend my cognitive strengths with my growing emotional awareness to just be the wisest version of myself that I can be.
That's amazing. And I think 2025 will be a win for me as long as I am focusing on growing the seeds that I planted in 2024. And I definitely think it's going to be a maintenance and growth type of year. And, there's just so many new things that have happened in 2024 that I hope, grow to blossom into, maybe something even more than I ever imagined when initially planting those seeds. And, for the listeners and the thrivers, we're just so very thankful to have had you again on this journey. And, if we do hope you have successful New Year's. And, even if it's not quote unquote successful by measures of others' standards, we hope that it's successful to you. And we do hope that you continue to care for yourself so that you have the option to care for others. As always, the conversation does not end here.
We want to know your thoughts on these topics. Join us on Instagram at Quarter Life Lessons Pod to share your perspectives and continue the conversation to thrive.
Thank you for tuning in to the Quarter Life Lessons podcast. Find new episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and our Buzzsprout website.